where I grew up, there was a pool, like a community pool, so to speak, that was built in the area. It's actually built when my dad was a kid, and him and my grandparents were founding members and all this, and we decided we wanted to join. And back when we joined in the 1996, you had to be recommended by another member. You had to buy stock. Like, it was like a country club. You had to be an equitable member. You had to do all this stuff, and it was a great fun. Like, we'd spend a long time there during the summer and just swim, and it was a great hangout spot. There were all my friends went there. Other kids went there. Lifeguards were pretty hot, because I remember some of the lifeguards. We fantasized about some of them even at like age 7. And it was a great hangout. And then until middle school, my sister kind of stopped going, and my parents weren't going as much, so it kind of put an end and we stopped using it. But I had other friends that still went, and they talk about it. And one of the big rules they had was no in-town guests. They didn't want people from town coming in as guests, because it was they could kind of take advantage of it. Although you could probably lie, but it was kind of a hard and fast rule. That much I remember, because they found out, they'd ask you to leave, which I'm sure you could get around that very easily. Where are you from? Not here. And it worked for them. But as the years have gone by, like the membership standards have lowered. Because it used to be you had to buy stock, be recommended, all that I talked about. Now it's just like, hell yeah, you want to join? We'll be glad to have you. And they're kind of barely staying open. And it's kind of a shame, but it's what's happened in the town I grew up in is everybody that grew up going there moved away, because there's no jobs or prospects. So they're just like, we need to get out of here and go someplace else. That happens to cities sometimes. But anyway, another thing I want to talk about is I had some friends that worked there. Like Charles worked there as a lifeguard, and the lifeguard job was the cake job. I know what you're thinking. Well, lifeguards work hard for their money. They got to save people and do this, that, and the other, and they do. But they got paid basically minimum wage. So it was lousy money to save people, but it was good money for what they did, which is to sit there and do nothing and do some minor work. And one year, I decided I needed a job. I was 16, and I've told you how hard it is to find a job at 16. You may as well be 7 for the amount of job offers you get. And Charles's dad was the manager. He's like, all right, yeah, sure, you can have a job. Just go get your lifeguard certification, and once that's done, let me know and I'll hire you. Okay, cool. I got that done, but during that time, another girl came up to him, begged him for a job, begged him, pleaded, cried, and he finally relented. He's like, are you lifeguard certified? Yeah. And turns out that was a lie. But she got my job that was meant for me and worked the whole summer without being lifeguard certified, which means they could have gotten sued. Very, very sued. And then another thing that happened was one of Charles's friends named Karen wanted a job there. And Charles got her on before I got the job. Now, Karen had never had a job before, but you need to have a first job. You may as well work somewhere. And her first day she's supposed to work, she shows up 20 minutes late. And Charles's dad told me, he said, she showed up 20 minutes late, despite living less than a mile away. And I could have dealt with that. I really could have, since it was her first day. She never worked a job. If she hadn't sat in the car for 10 minutes and did her makeup. And then she works her shift and just leaves 45 minutes early. Doesn't say a word. Doesn't do any of the closing work. Doesn't do any of the things that she's supposed to do, and just leaves. And I told Charles, I said, if she weren't your friend, I would have fired her the first day. And then she really didn't get any better, because I think that part of the closing thing was to vacuum. He said, that girl has clearly never vacuumed in her life and has never done a thing for herself. She was absolutely the worst. And he very quietly said, I am not hiring her back next summer. And that was like over 15 years ago, and he's still managing the pool, having to be basically a babysitting service, because a lot of people would just drop their kids off. And middle school kids, yeah, you can be there by yourself. But if you're talking like 10-year-old kids, he's having to tell kids, you can't just be here without your parents. This is not a babysitting service. And I'm amazed he hasn't given up in frustration, but he's stuck with it, and they're still open, plugging along, just really hurting for members.